Go ahead, walk away from this family. My brother-in-law's wife sneered at me, her eyes narrowing like she was sizing up a bad investment. Kendra leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed tight over her chest, that smug grin pulling at her lips. You think you're so independent, Riley? Please. You're just the spoiled baby sister who's never had to hustle a day in her life. Without your dad's handouts, his endless pity, his roof over your head, you'd crumble in a month. Back to crashing on friends' couches or slinging coffee at some dive. Face it, without us, you're nothing. Her words hit like a gut punch, but I felt something shift inside me. A spark of fire I'd buried deep since Mom died. Dad was in the living room, fiddling with the remote, pretending not to hear the storm brewing. He'd always been like that, the peacemaker who let Kendra call the shots because she handled things after Mom's cancer took her too soon. I remembered summers in that backyard, Dad teaching me to ride my bike while Mom cheered from the porch, her laugh echoing like wind chimes. Now, this woman had wormed her way in, turning our home into her personal ATM. I didn't beg or cry like she expected. Instead, I dug into my pocket, fingers brushing the worn brass of the spare house key, the one Dad had pressed into my hand years ago with a wink, saying, "For whenever you need to come home, kiddo." I set it down on the Formica counter, the clink sharp in the tense air. You're right, Kendra. Let's test that theory. Her face went slack, the color draining like she'd seen a ghost. What? You can't just... But I was already turning, heart pounding in my ears as I strode toward the front door. The screen creaked behind me, the cool evening breeze hitting my face like a wake-up call. My steps crunched on the gravel driveway, each one feeling heavier than the last, but freer too. What was I doing? Walking away from the only home I'd known, from Dad's quiet support, from the ghosts of family dinners where Kendra always found a way to make me feel small. But staying meant letting her win, letting her sell off Mom's legacy piece by piece. And before we get back to the story, would you be kind enough to give this video a like? You know, every single like means a lot to me. It's the kind of encouragement that keeps me creating and bringing you even better stories tomorrow. That was 3 hours ago. Now, I hunkered down in the dimly lit lobby of the Holiday Inn off I-90, the kind of place truckers crashed for the night, with its faded carpets and vending machines humming softly. I scrolled through my phone's voice memos app, the one I'd started using for work notes, but now served a darker purpose. Yeah, I'd recorded snippets of family chats over the months, not spying exactly, but capturing those offhand digs Kendra loved to toss my way. She never knew I was tech-savvy enough to bother. On the screen, I pulled up the home security feed. Dad had installed cameras after a neighborhood break-in, and I'd snuck the login ages ago. There she was, pacing the living room like a caged animal, picking up that key, slamming it down, her mouth moving in what looked like a heated call. Probably to Derek, my brother, or maybe Dad himself. Not the cops, though. What would she report? The little sister ditched her key and peaced out? The front desk clerk, a guy with a name tag reading Mike, approached with a key card. Miss Harlan, room 212's all set. My maiden name, Dad's name, rolled off his tongue easy when I'd booked it online this morning. It felt like reclaiming a piece of myself Kendra couldn't touch. I'd swiped my own card for the room, pulling from the 5 figures I'd built up freelancing data gigs on the side. Kendra always cracked jokes at barbecues about my cute number-crunching hobby, like I was playing pretend with spreadsheets. Little did she know, I'd turned my day job salary into a safety net, analyzing trends for small businesses after hours. The room was nothing fancy. Beige walls, a lumpy queen bed, the faint scent of industrial cleaner, but it screamed possibility. I dropped my duffel bag by the window, the one I'd packed stealthily in my trunk over weeks. Jeans, tees, a laptop charger. Kendra monitored the family credit cards like a hawk. but she never batted an eye at my quick target runs. After all, the baby sister needed her little escapes to stay out of the way. My phone buzzed again. 8 missed calls now, mostly from Kendra, a couple from Derek. I hovered over the block button, but curiosity won. The first voicemail popped up as I hit play, her voice slicing through the quiet room like nails on chalkboard. "Riley, this is absurd. Get back here so we can talk like adults." The room key clicked in the lock, and I pushed open the door to 212, the air inside stale with that generic hotel vibe. Part bleach, part forgotten luggage. It wasn't the Ritz, but it beat the pent-up tension back home. I flicked on the lamp, its warm glow casting long shadows across the beige comforter and the mini fridge that buzzed like an old friend. This was my turf now, paid for with my own plastic. No family account strings attached. I'd built that buffer freelancing data analysis gigs, crunching numbers for small outfits on Upwork after my 9-to-5 at the logistics firm. Kendra always rolled her eyes at parties, calling it my adorable side hustle, like I was doodling pie charts for fun. If only she knew I'd turned those late-night sessions into a 5-figure stash, enough to float me through whatever storm was coming. I tossed my duffel onto the bed, the zipper rasping as it hit the mattress. Unpacking could wait. My phone vibrated again in my pocket, insistent as a mosquito. I pulled it out. 10 missed calls now. Kendra's name lit up the screen like a warning sign. Her contempt echoed in my head. That way she always diminished me, like I was some fragile ornament on the family shelf. "Baby sister," she'd say with that fake sweet drawl, but her eyes screamed liability. It stung deeper than I'd admit, chipping away at the confidence Mom had built in me before she got sick. Mom would have seen through her in a heartbeat. I swiped to the contacts, finger hovering over Kendra's entry. Block? Nah, not yet. But delete? Yeah, that felt right. One tap, and her name vanished, reduced to a string of digits. Cold, impersonal, like how she'd treated me. The voicemails piled up, though. Curiosity gnawed at me, or maybe it was that twisted need to hear her unravel. I hit play on the first one, her voice filling the room, that polished edge she used when closing deals. "Riley, this is ridiculous." "This is, come back home. We'll sort whatever bee's in your bonnet." Bee in my bonnet? Like I was throwing a tantrum over spilled milk. The control in her tone made my skin crawl. She sounded like she was managing a glitchy app, not a family member. The second, "You think this proves something? Running off like a child? Your dad's worried sick." Worried sick. Classic guilt trip. I could picture her in the kitchen, pacing with that phone glued to her ear, her nails clicking against the counter. Third, "Fine, play your little game. But remember, the house deed's tangled up with all of us now. You can't just walk away without consequences." Tangled up, her code for the mess she'd made, twisting Dad's finances into knots for her gain. Fourth ramped it up. "Derek's furious. You know how he gets. This affects the business, Riley. Grow up." Furious? Good. Let him stew. The escalation hit me, the way her composure cracked a bit more with each message, like ice under pressure. Fifth, "If you don't pick up, we'll have to involve others. The neighbors, maybe even the cops for a welfare check." Welfare check? On me? The threat landed heavy, but it fueled the fire. She was grasping now, her perfect facade slipping. Sixth, "This isn't cute anymore. Your stuff's still here. Come get it before I donate it." Donate my things? That petty jab twisted the knife, reminding me of all the times she'd helpfully rearranged Mom's old keepsakes, shoving them into boxes like trash. Seventh, "Riley, please, Dad needs you. Don't do this to him." Pulling the dad card, low blow. But I knew it was manipulation, her using his frailty like a weapon. Eighth, You won't last out there. We both know it. The raw edge in her voice now, almost desperate. I paused the playback, my thumb trembling slightly. 8 voicemails in 3 hours? She was unraveling faster than I'd expected. It was a small victory, but it burned bright in my chest. This morning felt like a lifetime ago. A hazy dream before the storm broke. I'd woken at the crack of dawn in my old room. The one with the peeling Cubs wallpaper Dad never got around to fixing. The alarm buzzed softly, pulling me from a restless sleep. Dad had crashed on the couch again after another late-night spat with Kendra about bills. Her pushing for that upgrade to a McMansion, him mumbling about memories in this old ranch house. I padded to the kitchen, the linoleum cool under my bare feet. The coffee maker gurgled on timer, filling the air with that rich, grounding aroma. I poured a mug, black and strong, just like Mom taught me. "No frills, kid. Life's bitter enough," she'd say with a laugh. Kendra bragged to neighbors that I couldn't even brew a pot without burning it, but I'd mastered every appliance in that kitchen years ago, back when Mom was too weak to stand. Sipping at the bay window, I stared out at the backyard, the rusted swing set where Derek and I used to fight over turns, the flower beds Mom tended until the end. The silk robe Dad bought me last Christmas, wrong size, picked by Kendra's assistant, itched against my skin. And there, on the counter, that glossy real estate flyer she'd left out like bait. Prime Elmwood Park property. Ready for your vision. Vision my ass. It was her plan to flip the house, pocket the cash, and shuffle Dad into some assisted living spot while she and Derek upgraded. That's when the role I'd played hit me like a freight train. The dutiful daughter, the peacekeeper, always biting my tongue while Kendra chipped away at our foundation. I'd laughed off her jabs at parties, played the cute little sister to keep Dad happy. But standing there, steam rising from my mug, I realized I'd been complicit, letting her contempt erode me bit by bit. No more. Harlan, my maiden name, felt like armor when I'd booked the room under it this morning. A small twist of fate, reclaiming what was mine before she could strip it away. But I needed more than a hotel hideout. If I was going to prove her wrong, I had to dig deeper, starting with Dad's den. Those papers she'd been so cagey about? Time to organize them myself. Back at the house that morning, before everything blew up, I'd stared into my coffee like it held answers, the steam curling up like ghosts of better days. The real estate flyer mocked me from the counter, Kendra's handwriting scrawled in the margin. Perfect flip. Discuss with realtor ASAP. My gut twisted. Dad's den was just down the hall, his sanctuary of cluttered papers and fishing lures, the one place Kendra rarely invaded. But she'd been hovering lately, helping him sort bills. If there were clues to her game, they'd be there. I set my mug down with a clunk, the decision settling like lead in my chest. Time to play organizer. The den door creaked open, the musty scent of old books and Dad's aftershave hitting me like a time machine. Sunlight slanted through the blinds, dusting the oak desk where he paid bills and doodled grocery lists. Stacks of envelopes teetered on the edge, mortgage statements, utility stubs, that kind of everyday chaos. I started slow, rifling through drawers for the property docs, my hands steady at first. But as I reached for a file labeled Estate, my elbow bumped the old tape recorder Dad used for reminders, the silver relic tumbling to the hardwood with a clatter. It hit play on impact, Kendra's voice slicing through the quiet like a knife. Mid-sentence, sharp and smug. Asked to see the appraisal yesterday. I laughed it off, told him it was all legalese, too complicated for his head. He swallowed it whole. Derek, I swear, I could get him to sign over the whole deed, and he'd just nod along like a bobblehead. My hands froze, trembling now as I crouched to pick it up. The date stamp glowed. Last Wednesday, the day I'd swung by with Portillo's for Dad, catching him off guard with that Italian beef. He'd beamed, calling me his lifesaver, while Kendra hovered in the background with that plastic smile. Now it all clicked. Her side eye, the hurried whispers with Derek. The tape rolled on, her laugh tinny through the speaker. That's the beauty of this setup. Old man's trusting, frail enough to push around, and that baby sister? Riley's too wrapped up in her spreadsheets to notice. Pretty face, empty head. Perfect for keeping quiet. Empty head? The rage bubbled up, hot and bitter. My fingers clenching around the recorder so tight my knuckles whitened. How dare she? I'd caught her jabs before, but this was calculated, like I was a pawn in her chess game. I hit pause, breath coming in short bursts, the anger making my vision blur. Mom's face flashed in my mind, the way she'd sit me down after school, teaching me to balance a checkbook with a grin. Numbers don't lie, Ree. People do. If she were here, she'd have sniffed out Kendra's BS from day one. But cancer didn't give her that chance, leaving Dad vulnerable, me playing referee. The fury shifted to resolve. I wasn't letting this slide. Setting the recorder back exactly as it fell, angled just so on the desk blotter, I dug deeper into the files. There, buried under tax returns, a folder marked Updates. Papers dated last month, amending the family trust. Clauses about accelerated sales. Forfeiture if interfered with by non-primary heirs. And Dad's signature at the bottom, but something was off. The loop of the W in Walter looked too crisp, too perfect, like a digital stamp gone wrong. Forged. The twist hit me like a slap. Expertly done, but not his shaky scrawl from recent years. Standing there, surrounded by Mom's faded photos on the walls and Dad's dusty trophies, it crystallized. Kendra wasn't just greedy, she was a predator, systematic in her takedown. I'd been the buffer, the good girl holding the family together, but to her, I was expendable, a roadblock to the cash from selling Mom's home. No more playing nice. This was war, and I had the ammo now. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Uncle Pete's name on the screen. Dad's brother, the one who always called it like he saw it. What did he want now? I let Uncle Pete's call ring once, twice, my thumb hovering over the screen like it was a live wire. The den felt smaller suddenly, the walls closing in with the weight of what I'd just uncovered. But curiosity, or maybe that Harlan's stubborn streak, won out. I swiped to answer, keeping my voice low, even though the house was empty. Uncle Pete? Everything okay? His gravelly chuckle rumbled through the speaker, the kind that always reminded me of Dad's fishing stories by the lake. Riley girl, you sound like you're hiding from the boogeyman. Your dad mentioned you and Kendra had a spat. Something about keys and storming out? What's the real scoop? Spat? That's how Dad spun it? I paced the den, glancing at the folder still open on the desk, that forged signature staring back like a taunt. It's more than that, Uncle Pete. Kendra's been pushing buttons about the house, the estate. I found some papers. He cut in quick, his tone dropping serious. Whoa, hold up. Papers? Like what? I could picture him in his garage apartment, tools scattered, that old bear's cap tilted back. Uncle Pete had always been the family skeptic, the one who warned Dad about Kendra from the jump. She's slick, Walt, he'd said at the wedding. Watch your wallet. I hesitated, layers of suspicion stacking up. Did he know more? Was this a test from Kendra's camp? Amendments to the trust. Looks fishy. Dad's signature. It's not right. The words hung there, testing the waters. A long pause, then a sigh. Damn it. I told him to get a second opinion on that stuff. Listen, kid, I've seen her type before. Your Aunt Marie, God rest her, dealt with similar crap from in-laws. Come by later if you need to vent. And Riley, don't trust easy. Call me back soon. The line clicked dead, leaving me with a knot in my gut. Don't trust easy. Was that a warning about Kendra? Or something else? I snapped photos of the documents quick, my hands steady now despite the adrenaline buzz. Each click of the camera app felt like armor, capturing the clauses, the date stamps, that phony scrawl. I uploaded them straight to a private cloud drive I'd set up months ago for work files. Harlan-only access, no shared nonsense. If Kendra thought she could bury this, she had another thing coming. By afternoon, I'd checked into the Holiday Inn, the discovery still fresh like a bruise. From my room window, I had a partial view of our street, the ranch house's porch light flickering on as dusk crept in. I pulled up the home security app again. Yeah, I'd looped in a monitoring extension on my phone, the kind that pinged motion alerts. Kendra's Lexus pulled up, her figure storming inside, lights flipping on frantic. She was tearing through the den, I bet, checking if I'd taken anything. Mutual suspicion was thick now. She had to know I was onto something, even if she couldn't pin it. My phone buzzed again. Not Kendra this time, but a text from an unknown number. I tensed, but the message popped up. "Riley, it's Mrs. Lopez from next door. Saw you leave in a huff. Everything all right? I've got coffee on if you need to talk. Been watching that house longer than you know. 30 years of neighborhood drama." Mrs. Lopez? The sweet widow with the killer tamales always waving from her garden? She'd been Mom's confidant back in the day, swapping recipes over the fence while Dad grilled. But watching the house? That hinted at more. Layers I hadn't peeled back. A twist landed. Maybe she had dirt on Kendra, something from the sidelines. My reply flew out. "Thanks, Mrs. L. Not all right, but fighting. Coffee sounds good. Tomorrow?" Her response, "Anytime, mija, and call me Maria. I've got stories that might help." The exchange lit a spark. Kendra had said I wouldn't last a month without the family safety net. Her words echoing like a dare. But what did she know about my late nights freelancing, turning data into dollars? Or why Mrs. Lopez knew my coffee preference. Black, no sugar, just like Mom's. She'd underestimated me, never imagining the baby sister had been clocking her moves. 30 days. That's the timeline I'd give myself to dismantle her scheme, prove her dead wrong. After that, I'd rebuild on my terms. The key I'd left wasn't surrender. It was my opening salvo. And unlike Kendra, I'd scouted the battlefield first. Another buzz, more calls piling up from Derek now. The escalation was real, their panic feeding my resolve. But tomorrow's meet with Mrs. Lopez? That could change everything. 3 weeks had passed since that call with Uncle Pete, each day a slow burn of planning. My hotel room a war room of sorts. The meet with Mrs. Lopez was set for tomorrow, her cryptic stories dangling like bait I couldn't ignore. But tonight loomed larger. Mom's anniversary dinner, the one Derek had texted about, all neutral and businesslike. "We gotta talk logistics, Ree. Be an adult." I knew better than to trust the invite, but skipping wasn't an option. I needed to see their next move. The salon on Harlem Avenue smelled of hairspray and gossip, same as when Mom dragged me here as a kid. Maria, my stylist, worked her magic, taming my waves into something sleek, professional. "Big night?" she asked, snipping away, her reflection catching mine in the mirror. "Family thing," I said, forcing a smile. The navy dress I'd picked from Macy's hugged my frame, $200 charged to my freelance account Kendra couldn't touch. It was her power color, ironic now, as I tucked a USB drive into the hidden pocket, loaded with snapshots of those forged trust papers. My ace in the hole. My phone buzzed mid-blowout. Kendra's text. "Small change. Derek's work pals joining. Gotta talk home equity line. 7 p.m. at Giordano's." Mom's anniversary turned into a networking mixer. Classic Kendra. I replied, "Cool, see you there, keeping it light, no emojis." She'd expect the usual bubbly Riley, not the one clocking her every word. Then another buzz, 10 minutes later. "Actually, Dad wants us at the house. Lou Malnati's, 7 sharp." My jaw tightened. Another pivot, another control move. I redirected the Uber, the driver nodding without question as we veered toward Elmwood Park. The house came into view, driveway packed. Derek's F-150, a couple SUVs, a shiny BMW I pegged as the realtors. This wasn't a tweak. It was a full-on ambush dressed up as pizza night. Aunt Linda's rental sedan sat out front, her surprise visit from Milwaukee unannounced till now. Dad's sister, sharp but soft-hearted, always quick with a hug and a quip. Had they roped her in to play referee? She answered the door, her gray curls bouncing as she pulled me into a hug. "Riley, honey, didn't expect this crowd," she whispered, her eyes flicking toward the packed living room. Her grip lingered, like she sensed the trap. Inside, Derek held court with a Bud Light, his laugh too loud, work buddies sprawled on the couch. Kendra waved from the kitchen, all smiles. "There's our girl," Dad boomed, shuffling over, his Old Spice scent grounding me for a split second. He pecked my cheek, but his next words cut deep. "Heard you're stirring the pot, kiddo. Running off? Not our vibe." Mrs. Lopez slipped in with a tray of Cokes, her neighborly drop-by with brownies a cover for something more. Our eyes met, quick, knowing. She'd been Mom's shadow, always watching. "Some anniversaries are for closing chapters," she murmured, passing me a can, her fingers brushing mine like a signal. The dining table was set for 12, Mom's old china cabinet gleaming in the corner, her crystal catching the light like silent witnesses. Derek's crew, their wives, the realtor, even a lawyer I recognized from Dad's last will update. Too many players for a casual dinner. I slid into a seat between the foreman's wife, Karen, and the realtor's assistant, a kid barely out of college. Pizza boxes stacked high, pepperoni and sausage, but the air smelled more of agenda than garlic bread. Kendra kicked it off, clinking her glass like a queen addressing her court. "Funny story about Riley," she said, her smile sharp as a blade. "Back when she landed her little job, she wandered into a tech booth at a career fair, thinking analytics meant charting Netflix binges. The table chuckled, right on cue, like they'd rehearsed it. Pure fiction. I'd pitched my supply chain project to land that gig, but Kendra's narrative painted me as the ditzy sister. Good for a laugh, nothing more." Derek piled on, hoisting his beer. "Gotta love Rye, though. Always needs her big brother to bail her out." Karen's hand found my knee under the table, a pity squeeze that burned worse than the jab. I gripped her hand back, hard, my nails biting just enough to say, "I'm not that girl." The realtor, 3 glasses of wine deep, took his shot. "Derek's the real deal, a provider. Riley's more decorative, right? The keepsake sister." The laughs grew sharper, slicing through the haze of small talk. Kendra's eyes gleamed, her toast dripping venom. "To Riley, low maintenance, high drama, perfect for family photos." Mrs. Lopez cleared plates slow, her steps deliberate, her gaze locking with mine across the room. 30 years of watching this house, she'd seen women like Mom sidelined, erased. Her nod screamed game on. The table's chatter shifted to real estate. Equity lines, flip potential, market spikes, like they were carving up the house right in front of me. I excused myself, mumbling about the bathroom, but slipped into the den instead. Dad's computer screen glowed, left on in the chaos. The safe behind Mom's wedding photo was untouched, the file drawer labeled important still locked. But I didn't need to crack it tonight. The USB in my pocket held enough to start a fire. This dinner wasn't about remembering Mom. It was a stage to box me out, make me the flake in front of witnesses. My heels clicked on the hardwood as I slipped back out, the table's laughter fading behind me. I grabbed my coat, the night air waiting. They thought they'd cornered me, but I was already 3 steps ahead. The cold night air hit my face as I slipped out the front door, leaving the laughter and pizza grease behind. My heels clicked sharp against the sidewalk, each step pulling me further from the ambush Kendra had orchestrated. The dinner was a setup, a public takedown to paint me as the family flake, but I wasn't running scared. The USB in my dress pocket pressed against my hip, a quiet reminder of the forged trust papers I'd already secured. They thought they'd boxed me in, but I was playing chess while they were still setting up checkers. I pulled out my phone, the screen glowing under a street lamp. My fingers flew across the keyboard, texting Mrs. Lopez. "Maria, can we meet now? Need that coffee talk ASAP. Something's up." Her reply pinged back in seconds. "Diner on Grand, 20 Mini. I'm here, mija." No hesitation, no questions, just the steady reliability I'd always associated with her tamale trays and Mom's old stories. I flagged down an Uber, the driver's radio humming some Springsteen tune as we cut through Elmwood Park's quiet streets. The diner was a time capsule. Red vinyl booths, a jukebox in the corner, the smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease clinging to the air. Mrs. Lopez sat in a corner booth, her gray hair pulled back, a mug steaming in her hands. Her eyes, sharp despite the late hour, locked onto mine as I slid in across from her. "You look like you just walked out of a lion's den," she said, sliding a second mug my way. Black, no sugar, just like Mom taught us both. Before I could answer, a waitress, name tag reading Tina, swung by, her tray wobbling with a stack of dirty plates. She fumbled, a glass tipping precariously before she caught it, muttering an apology as coffee sloshed onto the table. Mrs. Lopez waved her off with a kind smile, but her focus stayed on me, unwavering. "All right, Riley, spill. What's got you running from that house like it's on fire?" I leaned in, voice low. "Kendra's trying to sell the house out from under Dad." That dinner wasn't about Mom's anniversary. It was a stage to make me look like a fool in front of Derek's work buddies, the realtor, even Aunt Linda. But I found papers, Maria. Trust amendments, forged signatures. They're planning to cut me out. Maybe Dad too. Her face tightened, lips pressing into a thin line. She reached into her purse and slid a USB drive across the table, its black plastic scratched from years of use. "This," she said, her voice heavy with something like grief, "is what I've been holding on to. Evidence, not just about your family, but others. Kendra and Derek, they've done this before." My pulse quickened as I palmed the drive, its weight heavier than it should have been. "Others?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Lopez sipped her coffee, her eyes distant, like she was pulling up memories she'd rather forget. "I've lived next door 30 years, mija. Watched your mom build that home. Watched her fade. Then Kendra moved in, all charm and promises. But I've seen her kind before. About 10 years back, there was a family down the block. The Thompsons. Nice couple. Big house. Grown kids. Derek worked with their son-in-law, same as he's doing with your dad now. Papers got signed, money moved, and suddenly their house was sold. Their savings drained. The daughter, Sarah, she fought back but lost everything. I kept records, emails, bank transfers, even some voicemails Derek thought were deleted. It's all on there." I gripped the USB tighter, my knuckles whitening. "Sarah." The name rang a bell. Someone Mrs. Lopez had mentioned in passing years ago, a cautionary tale Mom brushed off as neighborhood gossip. But now it felt like a mirror. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" I asked, not accusing, just desperate to understand. Her eyes softened, but there was steel underneath. "I tried, with your mom. She was too sick, too trusting. After she passed, I kept my distance, watched Kendra's moves. When I saw you leave tonight, I knew it was time. They're not just after the house, Riley. They're after you, your stake, your voice. They want you gone, discredited, so no one listens when you fight back." The twist landed like a punch. This wasn't just about money. Kendra and Derek had a playbook, a calculated plan to erase me from the family picture, just like they'd done to Sarah, maybe others. My mind flashed to Diana, Mom's old friend who'd vanished from our lives after a falling out with Kendra. Had she been another victim, pushed out when she got too close? I saw Mom's smile in my head, her voice clear as day. Numbers don't lie, Ree. People do. I'd been playing defense, but now I had their numbers. The waitress swung by again, this time dropping a plate of fries that neither of us had ordered. On the house, she mumbled, flustered, before scurrying off, met Mrs. Lopez didn't flinch, her gaze still locked on me. You've got the proof now, she said. Use it, but be smart. They're not sloppy. I nodded, the USB burning a hole in my pocket next to the one I'd brought. 2 drives, 2 sets of secrets. My mind raced. Kendra's smug toast at dinner, Derek's too loud laugh, the realtor's pitch about prime property. They thought they had me cornered, but I was rewriting the game. First move, get this to a lawyer, someone outside their reach. As I stood to leave, my phone buzzed again. No name, just a number. I ignored it, but Mrs. Lopez's eyes flicked to the screen. Careful, mija, she said, her voice low. They're watching. I slipped out into the night, the diner's neon sign buzzing behind me, my next call already dialing to a lawyer I'd found on a legal forum, one who specialized in trust disputes. The diner's neon glow faded in my rear view as I drove away, Mrs. Lopez's warning, they're watching, looping in my head like a bad song. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel, the 2 USB drives in my pocket heavier than their plastic shells. One held my photos of the forged trust papers. The other, Maria's evidence of Kendra and Derek's past schemes. My lawyer's voicemail picked up as I merged onto I-90, my voice steady despite the hour. This is Riley Harlan. I've got documents, trust fraud, maybe more. Need you to set up a shell company, something untraceable. Call me back. Phantom Solutions, I'd call it. My move to stay invisible while I built my case. 3 days later, Derek was off on a work trip to St. Louis, per his smug LinkedIn post about closing big deals. Perfect. The house would be quiet, Kendra likely at her office downtown, playing the power broker. I'd been tracking their patterns through the security app, Kendra's Lexus peeling out at 8 a.m., in Dad's routine of morning coffee and evening TV. The cleaning lady, Rosa, had quit last week, fed up with Kendra's nitpicking over dust bunnies. Her exit text to Dad, which I'd seen on his cracked iPhone, was a stroke of luck. No extra eyes in the house today. I parked 2 blocks over, a baseball cap pulled low. My old key still in play despite the one I'd left on the counter. The back door clicked open, the familiar squeak of the hinges setting my nerves on edge. The house smelled of Kendra's lavender candles, an attempt to erase Mom's rosewater touch. I moved fast, straight to Derek's office off the living room, a converted guest room with his golf trophies and a sleek iMac. The desk was a mess of contracts and Post-its, but I wasn't here for chaos. I needed their digital trail. The computer hummed to life, the login screen glaring. Derek wasn't dumb enough to use password 123, but I'd seen him type his code once, distracted during a family barbecue. I tried Birdie 2020, his golf obsession, plus their wedding year. Access denied. My heart sank, but then I remembered his brag about a new system last month. On a hunch, I typed Eagle 2023, tying it to his latest golf trip. The screen unlocked, a small victory that felt like cracking a safe. Emails loaded, hundreds of threads between Derek and Kendra, some CC'd to a realtor and a shady LLC. One subject line caught my eye. Harlan Asset Plan, Riley Contingency. My name in bold made my stomach lurch. The message was blunt. If she pushes back, we pivot to Plan B. Discredit her. Mental health angle. Unstable. Unfit to contest. Dad's on board if we frame it as protecting her. My hands shook as I read on, the words blurring. Plan B included pushing Dad to sign a power of attorney, citing my erratic behavior after I'd left. Kendra's reply. She's a liability. We'll bury her in legal fees if she fights. I plugged in a spare USB, copying the entire thread, my pulse hammering. Another email popped up, dated yesterday, to a lawyer. Draft language to nullify Riley's trust share. Urgent. The escalation was dizzying. They weren't just after the house. They were rewriting my existence, painting me as the unhinged sister to justify cutting me out. I'd gone from annoyance to enemy in their eyes. Sitting in Derek's leather chair, I leaned back, the creak grounding me as I stared at Mom's photo on the wall. Her smile soft, eyes fierce. I wasn't the same Riley who'd played peacekeeper, swallowing Kendra's jabs to keep Dad happy. That girl was gone, replaced by someone who'd learned to fight dirty with data and proof. The freelance gigs that Kendra mocked? They'd taught me to spot patterns, to dig for truth in numbers. Now, those skills were my weapon. My mind churned, piecing together the shift in me. I'd walked away thinking I'd prove Kendra wrong in a month, but this was bigger. A full-on dismantling of their empire. The USB Word, copying complete. I logged out, careful to leave the desk untouched. Post-its and all. Rosa's absence meant no one would notice my tracks, but I still moved like a ghost, locking the back door behind me. As I slid into my car, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Riley, it's Sarah Thompson. Maria Lopez gave me your contact. We need to talk about Derek. Coffee tomorrow? Sarah, Mrs. Lopez's cautionary tale, the woman who'd lost everything to their schemes. My breath caught. This wasn't just my fight anymore. As I slid into my car after slipping that USB into my pocket, the text from Sarah still glowing on my screen, I fired back a quick reply. Sure, Equinox on Oak Park Ave? 10 a.m. It was my go-to spot, the gym where I cleared my head with laps in the pool. Sarah's response came fast. See you there. My mind raced. Mrs. Lopez's cautionary tale coming to life, a ghost from the neighborhood's past. If she had dirt on Derek, it could be the missing piece. Next morning, the Equinox hummed with the usual crowd, clanging weights, whirring treadmills. I hit the pool first, slicing through the water in steady laps, the chlorine sting sharpening my focus. 50 strokes in, I pulled myself up on the edge, water dripping from my suit onto the tile. That's when she appeared. Sarah Thompson, Derek's ex from years back, her yoga mat slung over one shoulder, eyes ringed with fatigue under concealer. She looked older than I remembered. Lines etched from battles I could only guess at. Riley? She said, dropping her voice as she glanced around the empty deck. Thanks for meeting. Maria said you might be digging into things with Derek and Kendra. Her hands fidgeted with her water bottle, nails bitten short. I toweled off, nodding toward a bench. Yeah, what's the deal? She mentioned you lost big house savings? Sarah sat, her posture tense like she expected a trap. It's worse than that. Nathan, my ex, Derek's old partner, he pulled the same crap. Started with helping my folks with their estate, then forged docs to cut me out. Warned me they'd come for you next. They're moving assets already, offshore stuff. These guys don't just get mad when cornered, they destroy. Her words landed heavy, echoing Mrs. Lopez's files. I leaned in. How'd you know? PI I hired after the divorce, cloned phones, the works, but it was too late for me. She pulled down her sleeve, revealing a faded scar on her wrist. Nathan got rough when I pushed back. Said I was unstable. Sound familiar? The parallel chilled me. Derek's contingency emails, the mental health angle. Sarah wasn't just a victim. She was my mirror. A warning of what waited if I slipped. That evening, Derek rolled in from his trip, earlier than expected, a bouquet of lilies clutched in his fist. Lilies, my least favorite, the funeral kind that always made me sneeze, though I'd complained once years ago. He'd switched to tulips after, but these? A message, sharp as their scent filling the kitchen. Missed you, sis, he said, setting them on the counter where my key had sat weeks back. His hands shook faintly as he poured wine, the Cabernet he saved for closing deals. Thought we'd do dinner. Catch up like old times. Old times? We hadn't shared a meal without Kendra's shadow in months. I watched him slice cheese with unusual care, his knuckles white on the knife. Sounds good, I said, keeping my tone even, but my mind screamed alert. We sat at the table, the one Mom had refinished herself, and he launched in, voice too casual. Been thinking. We need a break. You and me, road trip to Door County. No phones, just cherries and lakes. Remember how you loved it as a kid? Loved it? I'd mentioned the cherries once on a family vacay while he griped about the drive. Him recalling it now felt rigged, a hook baited with nostalgia. His eagerness betrayed him, eyes darting like he was pitching a client. Why now? I asked, cutting salami precise, my fork steady. You're stressed, Ree. Hotel life? Not you. He slid papers across. Updated insurance forms, he claimed. Better coverage for the family. Sign here. His hand trembled as he pointed, the pen hovering. I scanned the docs, clauses about beneficiaries, assets tied to the house. My phone, hidden under the table, snapped photos via a discreet app, capturing every line. Trust me? He asked, his voice cracking just a hair, eyes pleading in a way that twisted my gut. The reversal hit. This wasn't affection. It was desperation, a ploy to lock me in before I unraveled their web. I'd thought his charm was genuine once, but now it reeked of manipulation. Always, I lied, signing with a flourish, the ink drying like a seal on my counterplay. Trust? Shattered, but I'd use his illusion against him. As I cleared plates, the doorbell rang. Mom? No, couldn't be, but there she was on the porch, suitcase in hand, her surprise visit from Ohio unannounced, Derek's grin too wide as he welcomed her in. The doorbell's chime still echoed in my ears as I froze in the kitchen, Derek's lilies stinking up the counter. Mom stood on the porch, her plaid suitcase battered from years of cross-state trips. Her smile hesitant but warm under the dim porch light. Derek swooped in before I could move, playing the golden son-in-law, all bear hugs and, "Ellen, you didn't tell us you were coming." His voice was syrupy, but I caught the tremor in his hands as he took her bag. I'd just signed his shady insurance papers, my phone's secret photos burning a hole in my pocket. Mom's unannounced arrival from Ohio wasn't a coincidence. It was another move in their chess game, and I wasn't sure whose side she was on. "Riley, honey!" Mom pulled me into a hug, her lavender soap scent grounding me despite the storm in my head. "You look thin. Hotel food, huh?" Her teasing was soft, but her eyes searched mine like she sensed the fault lines. I forced a laugh, dodging the question. Derek hovered, offering her wine, his charm dialed to 11. "Let's make this a real family week," he said, like we were starring in some Hallmark rerun. That week was a masterclass in pretense. Derek played the doting husband, whisking Mom to a matinee at the Goodman, laughing too loud at her stories over takeout Thai. Kendra joined the act, hosting a backyard barbecue, her smile as polished as the silverware. "Ellen, you raised such a fighter in Riley," she said, passing the potato salad, her eyes flicking to me like a challenge. I played along, nodding, cutting my burger with precision, but inside, I was a coiled spring. Mom's presence was a wild card. Did she know about the forged trust papers? Was she here to mediate or just caught in their script? Late one night, while Mom and Derek watched a Cubs game downstairs, I slipped into the guest room where Kendra had set up her work corner. Her laptop was off, but her phone sat charging, screen dark. I'd seen her type her PIN once, same as Derek's birthday, sloppy for someone so calculated. Holding my breath, I swiped it open, scrolling fast. A text thread with the realtor popped up. "Ellen's here. Perfect timing. Push the sale narrative." Riley's distracted. My pulse spiked. They were using Mom's visit to tighten the noose. The next day, I met Mrs. Lopez at the Elmwood Park Library. a squat brick building that smelled of old paper and lemon polish. She waited in the archives section, a stack of yellowed newspapers and a folder on the table. Her usual warmth was tempered, her eyes sharp as she slid the folder toward me. "You're in deep now, mija," she said, voice low. "These are from 10 years ago. Thompson case, others. Derek and Kendra's fingerprints are all over them." I flipped through clippings. Family home sold amid dispute. Daughter contests, fraudulent sale. Sarah Thompson's name jumped out, her face in a grainy photo, defeated but defiant. Then another name, Haley Carter, a widow whose estate vanished after her son-in-law helped with finances. The pattern was chilling. Derek targeted women like mom or dad's late sister, vulnerable, trusting, with assets to siphon. Kendra played the polished front while he pulled strings behind the scenes. A photo of Haley, smiling at a charity gala, could have been mom's twin. Same soft eyes, same trusting tilt of the head. Mrs. Lopez leaned closer, her voice dropping. "I stayed in this neighborhood after my husband passed because I saw it happening. First Haley, then Sarah's family. I couldn't stop them, but I kept records. That USB I gave you? It's got their bank trails, fake LLCs. They thought I was just the nosy neighbor, but I was watching for your mom's sake." The twist hit hard. Mrs. Lopez wasn't just a bystander. She'd been playing a long game, guarding mom's legacy from the shadows. My throat tightened, thinking of mom's last months, how she'd brushed off Maria's warnings as overthinking. I'd done the same, assuming Kendra's jabs were just petty. Now I saw the blueprint. Derek and Kendra didn't just stumble into our family. They'd chosen us, like predators picking the weakest in the herd. Back home, Mom caught me in the kitchen, her hands flour-dusted from making her famous cornbread. "Rye, you're quiet. What's eating you?" Her concern was real, but it stirred a storm inside me. Did she know Derek was using her visit to push the sale? Could I trust her not to side with him like Dad had? "Just work stress," I lied, my voice tight, hating how the doubt crept in. She'd always been my rock, but Kendra's game had me second-guessing everyone. That night, while they slept, I logged into my Phantom Solutions account from my laptop at the hotel. The lawyer had set it up clean, untraceable. I initiated the first wire transfer, $5,000 from the family account to my shell company, small enough to slip under Kendra's radar. The confirmation pinged, a quiet victory. They'd pushed me to the edge, but I was pushing back, and this was just the start. The laptop screen glowed in the dim hotel room, the confirmation email from Phantom Solutions still open. $5,000 transferred, a quiet jab in the dark. I'd siphoned the first chunk from the family account, small enough to slip past Kendra's hawk-like oversight. It felt like planting a flag, my first real move to claw back control. Mom's cornbread scent lingered in my memory from that last night at the house, her worried glance cutting deeper than I'd let on. She was still there, caught in Derek and Kendra's charade, while I worked from the shadows. 2 days later, I stood at the bank counter, the Elmwood Park branch humming with the usual Monday buzz, tellers tapping keyboards, a kid whining in the queue. I slid my ID and transfer request to the teller, a middle-aged guy with a name tag reading Carl. He squinted at the paperwork, then at me. "Another transfer, Miss Harlan? You starting a side hustle or something?" His tone was light, but his eyes lingered, curious. I forced a smile, channeling the breezy Riley they all expected. "Just some freelance stuff, Carl. Gotta keep the lights on." He chuckled, processing the $7,000 move to Phantom Solutions, but his question prickled. Too many transfers too fast might raise flags. I'd have to space them out, keep Kendra's radar clear. The receipt printed, and I tucked it into my bag next to the USBs, one with my forged trust photos, the other with Mrs. Lopez's evidence of their past scams. That night, Derek stumbled into the house, reeking of bourbon and bad decisions. I'd swung by to grab Mom's old recipe book, my excuse to check the security app's alerts. He slumped into the recliner, tie loose, eyes bloodshot. "Lost the damn contract," he muttered, not fully registering I was there, stirring soup for Mom in the kitchen. "Big one, too. Client backed out, said I'm overcommitted. Kendra's gonna lose it." His voice cracked, not the polished pitchman I knew. I kept stirring, the ladle scraping the pot, my silence drawing him out. "You ever feel like you're drowning, Ree?" he asked, staring at the ceiling. "Like no matter how hard you paddle, the current's stronger?" His vulnerability threw me. Derek, the guy who'd mocked my cute spreadsheets, was unraveling. I almost felt sorry for him, but the emails I'd found in his office burned away any pity. This was psychological warfare, and his cracks were my opening. "Rough day, huh?" I said, keeping it neutral, setting a bowl in front of him. He didn't touch it, just kept talking, words slurring. "Kendra's got plans, big ones. Says we need to consolidate, sign some stuff to cover losses." He fumbled in his briefcase, pulling out a stack of papers, estate riders, power of attorney forms. "Just sign, Ree. Makes it easier for Dad." His hands shook as he slid them over, the same tremble I'd seen with the lilies. I skimmed the pages, clauses tying my trust share to their LLC, a move to lock me out. My phone, angled in my pocket, snapped photos through the app, each click a silent strike. "Sure, Derek," I said, signing with a flourish, knowing my lawyer would shred these later. His relief was palpable, a sloppy grin spreading as he knocked back another drink. Over the next week, I upped the transfers, $10,000, then $15,000, each wired to Phantom Solutions. Carl raised an eyebrow at the third visit, joking, "You buying a yacht?" I laughed it off, but the scrutiny meant I had to move faster. Derek's drinking got worse, bottles piling up in the recycling, his signature sloppier on each new form he pushed my way. I signed them all, every photo uploaded to my cloud drive, building my case. Then the lawyer called, Karen Weiss, a trust specialist I'd found on a legal forum. I met her at a coffee shop downtown, her no-nonsense vibe cutting through the espresso haze. "Riley, I've got news," she said, sliding a file across. "IRS is sniffing around Derek's LLC. Tax evasion flags, tied to offshore accounts from Mrs. Lopez's USB. You didn't hear this from me, but they're building a case." The twist hit like a spark. Kendra and Derek weren't just scamming families. They'd tripped federal wires. My transfers, my evidence, were feeding a bigger beast. Karen leaned in, her voice low. "Keep gathering, but stay sharp. They'll hit back hard if they smell you." I nodded, the stakes higher now. The game no longer just mine. As I left, my phone pinged, a text from Kendra about a women's leadership meeting tomorrow, insisting I attend. Her tone screamed trap, and I was ready to spring it. Kendra's text about the women's leadership meeting buzzed on my phone as I left the coffee shop. Karen's warning about the IRS investigation still ringing in my ears. The meeting was at a swanky hotel downtown, the kind of place Kendra loved to flaunt her polished image. I knew it was another setup, a stage to parade me as the unstable sister, but I was done playing defense. My bag held 3 USBs now, my forged trust photos, Mrs. Lopez's evidence, and Derek's damning emails. I'd dressed the part. A sharp blazer, glasses I didn't need, hair tucked under a scarf to blend into the crowd. A disguise, subtle but enough to keep eyes off me until I was ready. The conference room sparkled with chandeliers and power suits, women networking over coffee and croissants. Kendra stood at the front, all smiles, introducing a panel on family legacies. I slipped in late, taking a seat near the back, my heart pounding but my face a mask of calm. When she opened the floor for questions, I stood, voice steady. "Kendra, you've talked about trust in family businesses. What happens when that trust is broken? Say with forged documents or hidden LLCs?" The room hushed, her smile freezing like cracked glass. "Hypothetically," I added, my tone light but my eyes locked on hers. How do you handle someone stealing a legacy? Her laugh was brittle, deflecting. Well, Riley, hypothetical or not, family disputes are best kept private. No need to air dirty laundry. A few chuckles rippled, but I caught Sarah Thompson's nod from across the room. Her presence, no accident. She'd shown up, armed with her own evidence. Her divorce filing against Nathan finalized that morning with Mrs. Lopez's USB as leverage. Private? I pressed, stepping closer. Or swept under the rug like forged trust amendments? The murmurs grew. Kendra's grip on her pen tightened, her facade slipping as I laid out just enough to plant doubt without showing my full hand. That night, I moved fast. Kendra was at the meeting's cocktail hour, Derek still nursing his bourbon-soaked ego. I slipped into their downtown office, a sleek space Kendra rented for her consulting gigs. A borrowed janitor's uniform, swiped from a friend at the gym, got me past security. Her desk was pristine, but the locked drawer gave way to a paperclip and some finesse. Inside, a thick envelope labeled Harlan Closing. I didn't open it, just slid it into my bag, my phone snapping a photo of the drawer's contents for good measure. Every second screamed risk, but the thrill of flipping their game fueled me. Back at the hotel, I locked myself in my room and made the call. Karen Weiss, it's Riley. I've got more. New envelope, plus the USBs. Time to pull the trigger with SEC and IRS. Her voice crackled with approval. Sending a courier now. Stay safe. They're cornered. I duplicated the USBs, my laptop whirring as it backed up every file to my cloud. The pieces were falling into place, but the war wasn't won. The next morning, the security app pinged. Kendra and a man, Richard, at the house. Richard, their lawyer, all slick suits and shark eyes. I watched from my laptop as they rifled through the den, Kendra's voice shrill through the hidden mic I'd planted weeks ago, a last-minute move inspired by Sarah's PI tales. She's got nothing, Kendra snapped. We'll bury her in court. Richard's reply chilled me. Unless she's got recordings, you didn't check the house? The twist hit. They hadn't found my mic, but they knew I was closing in. Their panic was my edge. I drove to the house one last time, the ranch's faded shutters a punch of nostalgia. Inside, I grabbed Mom's recipe book from the kitchen, the only thing I needed from this battlefield. On my phone, I checked Phantom Solutions' account. $30,000 siphoned so far, split clean from their grasp. As I stepped onto the porch, tires screeched, Kendra's Lexus peeling out of a side street. She'd know I'd been here, but I was already gone, headed to a dive bar downtown where Sarah had texted to meet. Derek would be there, she'd said, drowning his losses. Time to face him head on. The dive bar on Division Street smelled of stale beer and regret, neon signs buzzing over sticky tables. I spotted Derek in a corner booth, hunched over a whiskey, his tie undone, face haggard under the dim light. Sarah's text had been right. He was here, drowning in the fallout of his lost contract and my quiet moves. I slid into the seat across from him, Mom's recipe book tucked in my bag like a talisman. His eyes flicked up, bloodshot, surprised, but too far gone to mask it. Rye? What the hell? No small talk, Derek, I said, voice low, steady. I know about the forged trust, the LLC, the offshore accounts. I've got proof. Your emails, Kendra's envelope, recordings. His glass froze halfway to his mouth, knuckles whitening. You thought you could erase me? Call me unstable? I'm not Sarah. You don't get to rewrite my story. He laughed, bitter, but his hands shook. You're out of your depth, kid. Kendra's got this locked. You think you're clever with your little tech tricks? His bravado cracked, voice dropping. I didn't want this, Ree. She pushed, said it was the only way to keep the business afloat. Save it, I snapped, leaning in. You chose her over family, Mom's house, Dad's trust. You sold us out. My words hit like a slap, his flinch visible. The bar's jukebox kicked on, some Springsteen lament, but the air between us was thick with his guilt, my fury. I stood, leaving him with the truth and his empty glass. The courtroom was a different beast, all polished wood and hushed whispers. I sat in the gallery, my lawyer, Karen Weiss, at the plaintiff's table, her files stacked with my USBs and that envelope from Kendra's office. Mrs. Lopez, Maria, took the stand, her voice steady as she recounted Derek and Kendra's history, tying their LLC to Sarah's case, to Haley's. Margaret, another neighbor I'd barely known, testified next, her voice shaking as she described Kendra's consulting visits to her late sister's estate, papers signed under duress. The judge, a woman with steel gray hair, leaned forward, her eyes narrowing at Kendra's lawyer. "This pattern," she said, "is troubling. I'm inclined to freeze all assets pending IRS review." The twist landed. Her ruling wasn't just about my case. It flagged their entire operation for federal scrutiny. Kendra's face was stone, but Derek's shoulders slumped in the dock, defeat written in every line. My divorce papers from the family trust, filed to sever their legal hold, were signed that afternoon. The judge's pen, a quiet victory. The SEC and IRS had my evidence, thanks to Karen's contacts, and a whistleblower reward was in motion, enough to fund my next steps. Weeks later, I met Maria at a community center, our new foundation's first office. We called it Harlan Haven, a nod to Mom, a lifeline for women like Sarah, Haley, even Diana, Mom's old friend who'd reached out after hearing my story. Our first client, a young mom named Lisa, walked in, clutching a folder of suspicious estate papers, her story echoing mine. I handed her coffee, black, no sugar, and promised we'd fight. Maria's smile mirrored Mom's, fierce and warm. Mom visited that spring, her rental car pulling up to my new apartment, a modest place funded by Phantom Solutions clean transfers. Over dinner, her cornbread, my chili, she gripped my hand, eyes misty. "I should have seen it, Ree. Kendra fooled us all. I'm so proud you didn't let her win." Her words healed a wound I hadn't named, knitting us closer than we'd been since Mom's cancer days. 6 months later, the ranch house sold, proceeds split fairly under court order. Dad moved to a condo near Uncle Pete, free of Kendra's grip. I funneled my share into Harlan Haven, helping Lisa and others reclaim their lives. Derek and Kendra faced indictments, their empire crumbling under federal weight. I stood in my office, a photo of Mom on the desk, her smile my anchor. If this moved you, hit like, drop your thoughts below, share this with a friend, and subscribe for the next episode. There's more to come.